Alex?
All right, thanks so much, Pete. More now on the gun debate and the fiscal cliff. Joining me is Congresswoman DeGette of Colorado. Welcome to you. Glad to have you join us.
Good morning, Alex.
So the NRA says the answer to ending the gun attacks is putting police with guns into schools, but you're from Colorado, and you know that did not work in the Columbine attack because there were armed guards there, right?
Right, Alex, Columbine's in my congressional district, and I was in Congress when Columbine happened. They had two armed guards there. Many of these schools already have armed guards. And, you know, just saying we need to make bigger fortresses of our elementary schools is really an unbelievable and shocking answer to the issue of these assault weapons and these assault magazines. I mean, it just boggles the mind. A lot of us who are gun control advocates had hoped that the NRA, by taking a few days to think about it, would really think it through and say, you know, let's come to the table. Let's really talk about what gun ownership means, and let's talk about the fact that the only purpose of these terrible weapons is to shoot people. And what can we do to work together to minimize those impacts? That's what we thought they might do. I watched that press conference yesterday, and I was absolutely shocked because there was no real recognition of the role that these assault weapons and this ammunition play in these horrible, horrible attacks.
Yeah. But the fact is that people, your constituents, for example, are going to have differing opinions. And if Columbine had armed guards in that school, it had to have been approved by the parents. I mean, it was there. I mean, what do you say to that?
Well, what I say is regrettably, there's no simple solution to this whole problem. One thing I've been saying in the last week is you're never going to stop a mentally unstable person from getting a gun. But with hope, you could stop that person from getting an assault-type rifle, and then these assault magazines that can shoot up to 100 rounds. The shooter in Connecticut had magazines that had 30 rounds of ammunition. And if you can limit people's ability to get those, then while they may be able to get a gun, they couldn't do the kind of terrible shooting that they did in Aurora, in Columbine, in Connecticut, on and on and on in Virginia. So I think a first, but by no means a comprehensive solution, is banning these magazines. And then we need to look at comprehensive legislation. But really, the NRA should be sitting down with us and talking about this, and not just taking the whole issue of these assault weapons and the ammunition off the table and saying, no, we just need more proliferation of these types of weapons. That's not the right answer.
Well, in fact, this is a conversation going on in homes across the country. I'm the mom of 2 kids, and they're in school, and the last thing I want is guns, armed guns, you know, in their school place for I mean, the exponentially increases the possibility of an accident. But we're not going to solve this.
You know, Alex,
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, my mom was a kindergarten teacher for 25 years in the Denver schools. I can't imagine someone saying to my mom, okay, we're going to train you how to use a gun in case somebody comes into your classroom. That's just not a reasonable kind of idea.
Let's move on to whether or not this is reasonable, but let's talk about the fiscal cliff in terms of what's going on there. We have on Friday House Speaker John Boehner, who tried to explain the failure of his Plan B, and then the president urging Congress to pass a bill to keep the taxes from increasing on 98% of American taxpayers. Let's take a listen.
We had a number of our members who just really didn't want to be perceived as having raised taxes.
I expect Democrats and Republicans to get back to Washington and have it pass both chambers. And I will immediately sign that legislation into law before January 1st of next year.
Congresswoman, with time running out, can the House come back after Christmas, pass a bill, any bill, to avoid the fiscal cliff?
Well, Alex, I'm one of the vote counters for the Democrats. I'm a chief deputy whip, and I sent a letter to Speaker Boehner yesterday. What I said is this: you need to abandon the idea that you have to have a majority of the majority to pass legislation. In other words, Speaker Boehner said, here's my plan, and forget you, Democrats, and I'm just going to pass it with my caucus. And then his Tea Party rebelled against him. What I think he should do, come to the Democratic leadership, put together a coalition in the middle. moderate Republicans, moderate Democrats, we could come to an agreement and we could pass it.
May I just ask you where might that agreement come? And I'm going to ask my director to put up, we've got 2 full screens on the basics and very basics, but where there are areas that could be discussed for some level of commonality. Where do you think that might come, that compromise?
Well, let me give you an example. So the president says no tax cuts for people making over $250,000. Speaker Boehner says $1 million. Find some common ground in between that. And then look at the cuts. And Speaker Boehner says we might have cuts in Social Security or this. Maybe the Democrats say we don't like that, but how about cuts in another place? That's the way you come to compromise, is actually by talking. And in the end, there might not be a perfect solution. Everybody might be unhappy, and that probably means it's a good bill. But the problem is that the Republicans in the House, they don't talk to the Democrats. They don't try to work with us. What they say is, we're going to come up with a solution that we can pass just with Republican votes. And the problem with that, of course, is you can't compromise with somebody like that. So I'm really urging the Speaker to go back to the drawing board with the President, with Senator Reid, and with the Democrats in the House, and to put together something. There is common ground that we could find, but we can't find it if everybody keeps saying it's my way or the highway.
Well, and I'm going to take this a step further. On my broadcast earlier today, someone said there were about 50 or so in the Republican caucus with whom you can't even find any sense of reason. They said that it's just illogical, the theory that they are going after, and that there's nothing that are going to convince these group of people to come to the table and compromise. So if that's the case, where's the hope?
Yeah. Well, this is the Tea Party people. So they say, we don't believe in tax increases even for people making $1 million. That's why they refused to agree with this. That's why Speaker Boehner needs to come across the aisle to Leader Pelosi and to the Democrats and say, okay, I might have 50 people who disagree with me, but I have 200 people who agree with me. Now let's come up with a compromise. Let's try to get 50 or 100 or 150 Democrats. That's what our constituents think that they're electing us to do, is to go work in a bipartisan basis. But because of the rules of the House, Speaker Boehner just keeps saying, I'm ignoring the Democrats. I'm going to try to put together a plan that will appeal just to Republicans. And that's where he's running into this brick wall.